Our standard statement. This meeting of the Rutherford County Planning and Public Works Committee is being conducted electronically pursuant to Governor Bill Lee's Executive Order number 16. I would ask for a motion that conducting the meeting electronically is necessary to protect the public health, safety, and welfare in light of the coronavirus.
So moved.
Thank you. Need a second? And a second. This will act as roll call as well.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Chirino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Thank you.
I would like to call on Vice Chair Piercy for approval of the minutes.
I have reviewed the minutes and I find them in order. I do move for their approval.
Motion, please.
Second.
All right. Roll call again. Rachel.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Chirino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Thank you.
Highway. Yes, sir. Mr. Piercy. Yes, you may. You are recognized.
I wasn't able to attend the steering meeting last night. I wasn't able to watch it on television. I was very impressed and proud of how the committee was handled and how Mr. Harris, Chairman Harris, has done the meeting. As a commissioner and taxpayer of this county, I'm very proud of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I do as well.
I'll second that motion. All right. Let's go to Highway Department. I'm assuming we are
Chairman Cush,
electronic. Yes, sir.
would it be appropriate to move number, since Ms. Ritchie is a guest, would it be
Yes.
appropriate to move number 6 up and allow her not to be
I
here
would
for
be
the...
happy to do that, and thank you for bringing that to my attention. Miss Alicia Ritchie, yes, ma'am. If you're ready, are you prepared? You are welcome to come up and give your report.
This evening I'm here to talk to you a little bit about moving forward our MOU. And so we have proposed to do collections at all of your convenience centers with the exchange of goods and services. And that would mean placing metal kiosks as well as the trailers that are deemed necessary by Mayor Ketron to be able to collect textiles and home goods and anything really that you would find that would be donatable that's not deemed, unusable trash. So we are not going to take mattresses, we're not going to take paint, and we're not going to take large tube TVs. However, everything else that would be available to reuse in the thrift store we would deem viable for diversion at that point. So I believe that the MOU was made available to everyone in the council, and if you'd like to review that, you'll see, yes.
Mr. Chairman, I remember the presentation, Ms. Ritchie, and I apologize, I don't remember the other lady's name, but I was quite impressed, and this looks like a win-win for us as a county community, and it doesn't cost us anything and it helps us. And if you think it's appropriate, I would like to make a motion at this time to give the mayor the authority to sign a contract with this group and move forward with it.
We have a motion on the floor. I'm assuming you all remember the Make-A-Wish and this thrift store conversation from the last meeting. Do we have any? We'll make a second in discussion.
I'll second with the caveat of with legal's approval.
Yes. Thank you for adding that. That was going to be my suggestion. Because there certainly is some legal concern about injury and things like that out there that we want to make sure we've got everybody covered.
One question for Ms. Ritchie. The Make-A-Wish Foundation, we wouldn't have to sign a separate contract, would we not? With it's just because they have partnered with you, they will get a percentage, and a lot of that percentage will stay in this county for those kids who are on the list for Make-A-Wish. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and we have a second by Mr. Dodd. Any more discussion? And Rachel, let the motion note that pending also legal approval. Okay.
Further questions?
You have a question, Steve?
The trailers that you have commented on, will they be located in our convention center?
Mr. Chairman, ask him to use the microphone.
Make sure you're on.
What was your answer?
The trailers will be located inside of the convenience centers deemed upon approval with your design moving forward and based upon the availability
Okay,
of
that
space.
was going to be my next suggestion.
Yes.
That would add to the design a location to have these trailers put. Thank you.
All right. If no further questions, Rachel, we'll call roll.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Commissioner Blair, for bringing that up. Alicia, thank you, and good luck.
Thank you all. We greatly appreciate it.
All right. Let's move back to item number 2, which is the Highway Department report. I can't see the screen.
I don't have anything posted, and I haven't heard anything.
Okay, no report. All right. If they check back in before close of business, then we'll add them. But Tanya, how about building codes?
Lose my mask. Good evening, everybody. All right, so the building codes report for the month of January. We issued a total of 370 building permits in January. 114 of those were for single-family dwellings, which is up significantly from both last month and this time last year. This time last year, we issued 74 building permits, so that's an increase of 50 single-family dwelling permits for this month. For a total revenue of $158,900.
All right, continue on.
And if nobody has any questions, I'll move on to development tax. Development tax in January, we collected $441,750. That brings the fiscal year accumulative total to $3.7 million, a little better than $3.7 million. All right, and if nobody has any questions, I'll move on to zoning enforcement. Zoning enforcement, we had 104 inspections for the month of January.
I'm just curious, did anything need to be elevated to environmental court?
We haven't had the courts have been scarce at best for the last year. We haven't had too much court activity for the last year at all.
Okay, all right, I was just curious. All right. Any questions on any of those 3 items?
On re-inspections, it's kind of went down pretty good. Is that because we're...
Are we looking at zoning enforcement here?
Yes,
or?
I am. Zoning enforcement's re-inspections. January is 30.
Zoning enforcement tends to dip at this time of year.
Okay.
We do get slower at this time of year. It'll pick up again in spring.
Anything else?
Motion to approve report.
We have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
When we have a second. Any further discussion? Thank you, Rachel.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Sireno,
Yes.
Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes. Kenny, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you, gentlemen.
time and effort. All right, Doug and Michael, you have the floor.
Report today, since he's here, a little
Very
special
good.
guest.
Yeah, he's got the eyeball seat.
Good evening, Commissioners, and everybody here. Just good to see everybody tonight. Just our normal reports tonight to bring to your attention. Our first item that I'll bring your attention to is our available lot inventory. At the end of January 2021, we currently have 923 available lots. Again, that kind of goes along with what Tanya was saying. We are seeing quite a bit of building activity. The total available lots actually did go up slightly from last month. I'd say right around 20 lots, but the big reason was several larger subdivisions were approved and recorded. So that that number rather did go up pretty substantially. So, but with the building activity, you can see it's still staying pretty steady right now, despite the fact that we are receiving a lot of different plats and recording different plats. Of course, the available, those not recorded, still in the 4,000 range, 4,117 is what we have right now. Those are lots that are not recorded but are somewhere in the pipeline, either preliminary or final plats waiting for approval. So that's the report we have for that. If there's no question, I'll move on to our rezoning report. We only have one rezoning report for your consideration next week. And this will be for property located along 1731 Holly Grove Loop, which is a very small road off of Holly Grove Road, Mr. Piercy's district. The applicants would like to operate a small-scale dog and cat boarding and rescue facility on this property. This is actually similar to the request that you received and considered last month during your Board of Commissioners meeting, with the exception of last month that was dealing with the zoning issue. This month, this is something that the applicant would like to start. They haven't actually started it yet. So essentially what they're doing is they're wanting to zone the property, and it's a fairly large property. It's about 60 acres, if I remember correctly. Let me go back just to double check. Yeah, 67 acres. And they want to rezone the property to agricultural residential because kennels, as what we would classify this use as, is not a use allowed in the residential zones, the RL or the RM, and is not allowed as a home-based business. So they're asking for the same thing that the applicant last month was asking for, and that's a rezoning to agricultural residential. If this is approved, they do have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special exception for the actual use of the kennel. So even if you approve the zoning, you're not approving the business. You're just giving them the ability to make the application to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So in your report, there is information that they did provide on their business. I won't go into that just a whole lot of detail right now, simply for the fact that, again, even if the rezoning is approved, that doesn't approve the business. It would have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. There wasn't much discussion on this really at the Planning Commission at all. Really, the questions that were asked, it was agreed even at the Planning Commission that those items were better discussed at the Board of Zoning Appeals because they related specifically to the business that the applicant was looking to actually do on the property. So after discussion, the application was recommended approved by the Planning Commission by a unanimous vote. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Steve?
Doug, is it necessary to rezone the whole 67 acres for a kennel, or what's your thinking on that?
Well, the way our ordinance is currently written, like again, it's not allowed in the residential zones. Now, they could just rezone a portion of it, and that would work, but there really is, in my mind at least, this is a down zone. It's going from RL, which is a 1 unit per acre minimum for a residential lot, to AR, which is a 5 acre per dwelling unit minimum. So zoning the whole property that way, plus they do farming activity on the property. So this is consistent really with what they're already doing, and they had no qualm about doing the whole property. It would have been the same process regardless if it was a portion of the property or the whole thing. So they were fine with the entire property.
Anything other than a kennel, will they have to come back before the planning or whatever to
yes, sir. Yeah, unless it's something that's allowed by the zoning, but agricultural residential is pretty limited in what's allowed. This won't open the door to just a variety of commercial uses or anything like that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
What was the vote on that?
It was unanimous, 9-4 and 0 against.
If nothing further, I would entertain a motion to approve his reports.
Second.
All right. Without any other, do you have a, okay, Rachel?
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Doug, thank you. All right, Michael, do you have oh, that's okay. You're saving yours for solid waste.
Yeah, I'm in the solid waste.
All right. All right. You're just here for TV time then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Perfect.
Just eye candy.
I got you. I'm with you. All right. Let's see. Rezoning place, solid waste. Mac, how about solid waste? I'm kind of hurrying through this because I'm a big fan of Curse of Oak Island, and I just know they're going to find something big tonight. I just know after 5 years they're going to find that money pit. Man, it's going to be good. So, no, I'm only joking, obviously.
Good evening. We'll start as usual with the landfill report. As you can see, the landfill has not been extremely busy, but this time of year is kind of conducive to that. And if you'll flip on back into that report, you'll see to where our consultant, Jeff Postel with Triad, has done what the state TDEC has requested on the financial assurance of our two landfills. Both our landfills has been under one financial assurance. They wanted it separated into two, and they wanted it recalculated. What's brought this on is, I don't know if y'all remember, but a year and a half, Becky? A landfill over in West Tennessee went bankrupt. TDEC wound up with it, and they closed it. Well, I was kind of excited when they wound up with it because they could see the struggles that the county governments would have on funding for them to close and do what we would have to do. Well, what they did was took all the grant funding back from everybody else and spent $8 million to close that thing. You know, so that's what helped create this. When it's all said and done, there's one correction that needs to be made in it. It doesn't really have to be made, but on that first page that Jeff's talking about the number of acres, OIT actually did a flyover for us, and they calculated the number of square feet and then converted that into acres to 176 acres that we actually do mow. The rest of it's wooded or unmowable. But when you calculate the two financial assurances together, is actually less than what the state currently has on our current landfill. So it's actually a win-win for us. Any questions on that? In with those calculations, you'll see where we did the pricing to bush hog. We bush hogged once last fall, $11,300, and that was a one-time bid, so we'll need to put that out for bid before too long, to where we will have a contractor to do it twice this coming year, once in the probably late spring and then in the fall. But that was those three prices was what we had originally. On a good note, good and bad, I guess, TDEC's decided they need to visit our landfill more often, so they're coming at least once a month. Last month they came twice, but on their second inspection we wound up with 0 violations. Some areas of concern, but no violations. We still do have some things that we've got to address. A lot of it is weather related. We actually were up on top of the landfill for them to see what they wanted to see and got stuck. So we had to get a dozer to come up there and pull us off of the top of the landfill. And that's all I have on the landfill, unless y'all have a question. No questions? Let's go to the convenience center report, recycle centers. Trash is still fairly heavy for us. We're actually 3 drivers short. We've been having a difficult time trying to fill those positions, but we're making it work. We're running a little bit of overtime, but not an astronomical amount of overtime, and we're trying to keep up with it. Recycling is still running about what it normally does. The school trash is down a little bit. They don't have all the student population at the schools, but it's still up from what it would be if you did it percentage-wise. And I think a lot of that's because of their feeding programs. They're probably doing some classroom feeding and generating some trash, container type trash that way instead of washing dishes type trash. Any questions on those?
Seeing none.
The next, I've got a budget amendment and then a...
Robert P.
Yeah, I had a question on the landfill, and can you give me the monthly cost for the last 2 months on the contract that we've got out there as far as the dozer work and that kind of work? Kind of tweaked my memory when you said they came up to the top of the hill to unstuck you.
Most of the month, last month, it was rainy and wet, so the rubber tire loader was pushing the brush for burning the brush, and then we didn't do a whole lot of dirt hauling stuff because it was so muddy. The rubber tire loader cost us $65 an hour. It's a 40-hour week. I can't do that math off the top of my head, but that's what last week's bill was just for that one piece of equipment. And then we've had some leachate outbreak issues earlier in the month, and when it got dry enough, they mobilized the dozer, the track hoe, and a articulating dump truck to move some dirt and fix the issues that TDEC had concerns with, which that is the reason on that last inspection we didn't have any violations. We'd gotten them all repaired. But the answer off the top of my head, Commissioner, I don't have that number.
Can you make that part of your report in the future, what that monthly cost is?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right. Matt, continue.
I have a budget amendment.
Well, look, before you do that, let's just go ahead and approve his 2 main reports and get that out of the way.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Mr. P,
Yes.
Mr. Sherino,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner Blair,
Yes.
Chairman Cush.
Yes. Mac, where's your budget? Do you remember what folder your budget? Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I will. Thank you.
We're requesting a budget amendment, line item that's out of the convenience center budget. Line item 351 is for rentals. Normally what we'd pay rentals is our porta potties and some things like that. If you remember, the little building at Eagleville Convenience Center burned, and we rented a mobile mini. It's similar to the little job project type containers. It looks like a Connex box with some windows and a door and an air conditioner and a heater. Rented one of those to make it through until we find a replacement, which we've not done a replacement yet. So we need to do a budget amendment to get us through the end of this budget year for $6,800, and that money would be coming out of our site development line item. So it's coming out of the same budget, just moving it to a different line item.
All right, Mac, I'm confused. I see the explanation for above amendment request. So that one line about the Eagleville Convenience Center fire is the explanation for the above. Let's see, right? Okay, that's not a future expense coming.
No, sir, that's just paying for the rental of this temporary building until we finally build a structure at some point.
I'm with you now. Sorry. Okay. Anybody have any questions or math issues regarding that budget amendment?
Move to approve.
You think that will last you till you get a structure built, Mac?
No, sir, that should get us through this budget year. If we don't get a structure built in this budget year, then we'll need to rent it into next budget year as well.
you do this monthly, or how are you renting this?
Yes, sir. It's per month. It's a setup fee and all those, delivery fee, setup fee, and then we had to pay electricians to wire it in and all those things. And then it's a monthly rate after that. And then once we get finished with it, it'll be a removal fee to go along with it.
What's the monthly rate?
I'm thinking a little less than $400. Don't hold me to that. It's going to be close.
All right, we have a motion. I need a second. Any more discussion? Rachel?
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Mr. P?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Sereno?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Staying on the
Hey,
topic.
Matt?
Yes.
Do these people rent to own?
They would, and the building's actually a lot better than what they had. And it's basically how long was those things? 25, 30 feet? And it would sit on a tractor trailer and bolt from the bottom to the trailer. So if we had a concrete foundation and bolted it down, we'd be better off than what we'd had before.
Well, that may be something that we need to look at if it's a rent to own.
Okay. I mean, they're not the most pretty thing you've ever seen, but they're functional. And it's got a whole lot better heat and air than what we had too.
Hey, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Wait just a minute. I got a question for the mayor, if you got a second. Does the county not have any employees that can do any of this work anymore? I know a few years back they used to have a small crew that went around and done odd jobs and whatnot, done a lot of work on this courthouse. Do we not have those anymore?
Yes, sir, we do.
Is tasking them to build them some type of shelter too big of a project for that?
That's a question I'd have to ask Mr. Mankin, our director of maintenance, and see if he has the crew, Mike.
You're correct, they do have that. Now the obstacle can be, we're not part of the general fund. Those people are in the general fund. We're in a fund to ourselves.
And it would have to come out of his budget to reimburse Ben, I would believe, and his crew for the materials and et cetera. I remember when years ago, back in the 90s, when I was on the commission, and Possum, for those who can remember that far back, he kind of led that construction crew and go get the workhouse inmates, et cetera. So, that's a possibility we could look at.
But that's what I was referring back to, because they worked on everything anywhere in the county. Every day they were working doing something.
Yeah, they do come and get them. Smyrna comes and gets them, et cetera. So, sometimes you need to get the ones that do have those skill sets, but we have used them. Yes, sir. Something we could look at.
Just like him saying if we had a concrete slab to set that building down on, surely they can pour concrete.
Sure.
Mr. Dodd could help. He used to.
Right. Bill can pour concrete. Yeah.
I was told, of course, this was back before my time, but the mayor's correct. Possum led the crew, and it was inmates that actually did the construction. They did the construction at the highway department when it was over where correctional people are now. And once they built the buildings, they'd put it on lowboy, and the highway department actually delivered them and set them. So it was departments working together to make those things happen. And those are the exact same buildings built way back then. Some of them, the floors are in pretty rough shape.
Smart idea, Mr. Vice Chair. I like the way you think. All right, Matt, continue on.
We need to cut corners where we can.
Oh, no, that's a good thought.
The next one you should have is talking about telephones. The Rutherford County Solid Waste Department has 17 street addresses. We have 17 locations. 14 of those locations are the convenience centers that we renamed to recycling centers that accept trash and cardboard. Those centers are costing us over $300 a month each in telephone service. And we've tried to work through it multiple different times. I didn't have a whole lot of luck. And we were getting ready to have to come to you tonight for a $17,000 budget amendment to get through the end of this year in the communications line item. And Tanya Herman is my assistant there in the office. And she said, well, we did something different at the Christiana Fire Department, so this is what we did. So we started going through state contracts and looking and things like that. So this is an estimate of what it should cost to replace all of those. Not only would we not need the budget amendment that we were looking at tonight, next budget year we'll save $45,000 in telephone bills just at the convenience centers alone, just those 14 locations. If you read through the contract, there was a line in there where it said they can do up to 9 locations, and they did email us back that per account, so they would set up one account for 9 centers and a sub account for the other 5 to where we could have the 14. But this would be a contract, and I can't sign the contract, so it'd be a request and permission for the mayor to be able to sign the contract and us do this. And if we can get through the county commission, they said it would take a month or less to get it all switched over. All the centers would have the exact same phone number. Once they got all their equipment installed, then they would tell us, all right, tonight when you close, unplug out of the wall and plug into this new box, and we never lose communications.
So your hope is to make a motion to give the mayor approval to enter into a contract?
Yes. And since it is money, then it'll need to go to budget.
Go to budget, full commission.
Yeah. And is there any penalty getting out of the current contracts we're in?
No, we're just dealing with AT&T telephone service just like everybody else would.
All right. Anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Any comments? Rachel?
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
If there's no other questions, that's all of my report.
All right. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd like to share this. Mr. Nolan used to help the area be view roads and bridge pipes, and everything seemed to be very nice and clean. I appreciate so much. Last Wednesday, I went out to that area. I found the mattress might be one in the trash over this side. But this morning I went back again. That's clear. I didn't see anyone, anything. The people that they really appreciate so much.
I thank you for that. The county workhouse, the correctional work center, is actually running those crews to pick up on the road. We get the phone calls and then let them know what roads need to be picked up, but they're the ones that's actually physically doing the labor.
All right.
Mac, I want to go back to what Robert P. was talking about. Who is the one that helped you? You said you got stuck on a hill. Who helped you get off? What's the name of the company?
Melton Construction.
Melton Construction, okay. So 6 months ago, we talked about them, about opening bids on looking for someone else. Have you done that?
No, we have not done that yet.
Okay, can we not do that since I believe the contract's up?
The contract will expire, yes. We can put it out for bid again.
You have a problem with that? You okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
It may not be necessary with RFPs coming in later on this month.
But I'd rather be prepared.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Mike, is your conversation and Max?
I'll take this.
I think the mayor was going to lead off.
Thank you. All right. We've got some convenience center updates we want to chat about and some opportunities. So, Mayor.
Okay. You through with this report?
Are you all finished, Mac?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, if you will recall, the committee last meeting authorized Mr. Jay Bradley with ELI to move forward and start designing at least 4 convenience centers, a redesign or a makeover for those 4 facilities. One in particular is our busiest convenience center on Weekly Road in Smyrna, by far the busiest. And so got a call from Mr. Hercules, the city manager for the city of Smyrna, and he came to us with an idea, since we were going to expand at our current location onto our property, which he's using half of the 4 acres. He's got 2 acres to the back of where our dumpsters are in that tree line. He uses that for the Smyrna Water Department laydown lot, where they bring construction material and lay it down, etc. So since he was going to have to vacate that, since we were going to expand our location there on Weekly, he came to us and said, what if we were to work a deal at the location down where Lisa Kroll's office is? Mike has got the maps, and he's pulled them up here. They should be in front of you. So we have, I believe, Mike, that's 18 acres, is that correct?
Yes, Mayor, 18.2 acres.
Okay. And you see Lisa Kroll's office is in that lower right-hand corner, and he was interested in leasing, purchasing, or us giving it to him. One of the 3, and wanted to bring it to you. I brought this before the Property Management Committee, and after we looked at this and Mike had the maps out, we got to thinking about it, and Mike shared with me new information with all of us in the meeting, is that FEMA is getting ready to issue new FEMA maps. And so the flooding zone on this 18 acres is rescinding away from, you see where that kind of curve is. It's not up there anymore, but there's a little road that used to be a road. I believe this is where the
officers'
quarters were when it was Seward Air Force Base. It's where the Smyrna, it later became the Smyrna Country Club, so to speak, after the officers' quarters closed down when the base pulled out. But looking at that, we got to thinking about it, and now it's more out of the flood zone. We thought that might be even a better place, and I believe Representative Sparks had been trying to get us to move down there for quite some time. He's been talking about that for several years. So we started really focusing on that and started thinking, instead of increasing or enhancing and taking those 2 other acres that we currently have at Weekly and expanding our landfill, why don't we move the whole thing to this lot here? It's out of the way, it's off of the main road where Weekly is so busy that it would divert the traffic over to the convenience center location over here. We built a brand new one from scratch. The other one where we're located does not have water and sewer on it. And Brian said if we would give him this piece of property, or a section of this piece of property, he would run water and sewer to our current location and not charge us for a manhole cover or for the sewer tap. And so this property that we're looking at currently already has water and sewer on it. So it seems to make more sense that we move our convenience center here. And then I went back to Brian, and so we're trying to work up a number, because I said, how about you, we're kind of liking this location that you wanted. How about you stay where you are with that laydown lot? He said, well, work up a number and come back to me, and we're still working on that number, trying to get, we've called Sam Coleman, we've called other folks in that area that knows the property well to see what those 2 acres would be worth to selling to the city of Smyrna. and we keep the current convenience center 2 acres and sell that for, I believe it's owned industrial?
Industrial, I-2, which is a
I-2?
medium industrial.
But I think all that property, even across from Rat Pack and right next door, it's a higher end. The county could sell that and retain that piece of property as well. So we discussed this at property management the other night, so we wanted to make sure we bring it before you tonight. And if that's the will of this committee, we can he's already done preliminary drawings on the current location, but we could instruct Mr. Bradley to change direction and design a convenience center location here. And I really have, more I've thought about it, slept on it, I like this location better. And that was Mike's suggestion. He said, Mayor, you need to look at this. The flood's gone, and
It's going to be a much more valuable piece of property keeping it together as the over 18 acres close to the airport, a commercial airport, that if we ever did vacate this property, it would be worth a lot more money as a solid block of land. And if we're going to be redesigning the convenience center, it made sense to move at this location. And when we originally looked at the Smyrna branch of the county clerk's office, that was one of the items that we considered was to have the convenience center in that location. Like the mayor said, Weekly Lane is an arterial that runs through Smyrna. Even though they have a queue lane at the current center, traffic does back up onto Weekly Lane, and this would give us the opportunity to get that major traffic off of Weekly Lane and have us more room to work with the traffic in this location.
Chairman, Mayor, that's where I get my tags in other services. Beginning of the month, end of the month, the county clerk's office at that location have a lot of traffic, and I don't know that I could tell exactly how that was going to be routed presently, and I may be getting the horse before the cart.
We had talked to Lisa, and she had talked to us. Of course, the testing facility, if you see, Mike can go back up there. The testing facility is going to close this year, so you no longer have to go get tested before you get your tags. So she had requested for us to come back in this next year's budget and put in more parking along, what street is that?
B Street?
I Street.
I Street.
I Street. Put in more parking there for her, but this would, if we went over to the corner of G Street, Mike, is that where we were looking at?
I've got a little map. I think I can try to pull that up.
If the traffic could go on G Street in and out, I think it would spread it out, but I don't know if that's possible or not, but I was just trying to gauge.
That's what we had talked about, bringing it all the way over from, she's on I, and we come all the way over to the corner of G and 11th. You see that little green tree right there?
This doesn't show up very well, but here is the current facility at the bottom of the screen, and then we were going to add more parking in this, I'm sorry, it's poor quality, this kind of hatched area in the middle, and we were going to add a couple queue lanes and maybe possibly an additional drive-through window for the clerk's office, so they would have a lot longer. You can see the arrows on the right-hand side of the parking area. Additional queue lanes to stack up traffic off of all the roads, and that would be internal there. So this is a concept plan we have been working on.
Chairman.
Steve.
Will a new site not have to be permitted through TDAC for a convenience center?
It does.
I think we would want to see if it was possible before we got too carried away on buying the property to see if
No,
it could be.
we own the property.
The 18 acres?
Yes, sir. It's ours.
So what are we discussing?
What are we discussing?
Yeah.
Moving it from property that we own to property that we own.
Just the swap, the location swap.
Right now, Commissioner Piercy, it's down this smaller yellow part down here. The county owns that, and they also own this 18 acres up here where the clerk's office is located.
Rutherford County owns?
Rutherford County owns both parcels, yes, sir.
What's Brian Hercules got to do with this if we own them both?
He approached us and wanted to acquire 5 acres off of the larger tract to the north to, put his lay-down yard, a storage yard, and maybe put a building. But Smyrna already owns 2 properties that are adjacent to the Weekly Convenience Center to the south. Their Public Works building, and they've got another building back here. So we thought, well, if we can consolidate to the north, they can consolidate to the south, and like the mayor said, purchase a couple 2.2 acres or whatever at the tree line and sell that to the town of Smyrna, and then we could put this remaining 2.5 acres on the market after Smyrna brings sewer to it.
Okay. The 18 acres, is it large enough to build a transfer station on? That we own now?
Hey, I'm not sure you want to put a transfer station. You might want to have a conversation with Ms. Crowell and other citizens. I'm not sure that or the city would allow that. We got several. Steve, go on.
Mr. Chairman, state right quick, the city of Smyrna came through a few months ago and actually asked the county to use the rest of that 18 acres right there in some ball fields. And so with Brian Hercules, when we talked to him, he still has room to do his ball fields on the other side over there as far as, they were wanting to move their, they needed some more ball fields. And so the county has already approved that part for them to do their ball fields on. I just want to make you aware of that is all.
So the 18 acres is already occupied partly with ball field potential?
That I guess be the northern side. If you look at that, make the bigger.
I'll pull that one up, yes, sir. Let's see.
And then what's that road right there, Cadet Street or something?
Yeah, well, one map calls it Officers and another map calls it Cadet. It's not an official road.
Okay. That curvature that looks like a baseball diamond right there, that was where we want to do the convenience center. This other part to the northern part, all that right in there where he's circling, that's what they're going to use for doing some extra ball fields. They would have done it this year, but COVID and all that stuff kind of put a nix to that.
But that is a year-to-year lease with Smyrna that property management has agreed to.
So, Mr. Mayor, the current location that we're at right now, and I'm talking about the smaller.
Yeah, the 4 acres.
Why do we not sell that to Smyrna?
That's what we're
going to sell that. What are
well, he said that he would not be interested in the 2 acres where our current convenience center is.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he's not interested in that, but he would be interested in buying where he currently is, that is our property, the 2 acres where his laydown lot is.
He would need the additional land to put a building on the northern part. This one, he's already got his building set up down here.
So we own everything inside that yellow box. Now, where the arrow is the tree line, and they're using that laydown lot back to the left.
Approximately 2.2 acres.
Yes, sir.
I think.
Yes, sir.
And that's what I came back after we started thinking about the 18 acres. Would you be interested in buying that? Because you own the other 2 buildings on each side. currently. Your water department's there, and you could continue to use that as a laydown lot, and then we just sell our property where our current convenience center is facing Weekly.
With the addition of sewer from the town of Smyrna.
Correct.
Which is also frontage road on a
Yes,
main
sir.
thoroughfare.
So we're going to sell that once we get water and sewer.
The front 2 acres. That's the intent. If property management makes that decision.
Mike, can you tell, I forgot, I think you told me, when did they do the drawing for the convenience center to be down there behind the?
Oh, it was back in 2005, I believe.
2005.
That's when we designed, 2009.
Okay.
That's when the original design for the clerk's office was made. This was kind of a master plan for the whole property, kind of looking at what we could do to improve it.
Let me,
May I, just to clarify, there's 4.4 or so acres there, and we want to sell half to Smyrna, and the other half sells to the open market.
That's correct.
So just.
Right. Industrial zone property. Yes, sir.
let me read this from the property management. And Phil, this mentions you, so if I misspeak here, you correct me. Commissioner Dodd moves, seconded by Commissioner Gooch, to forward to the Public Works and Planning Committee with a positive recommendation the discussion of moving of our convenience center on Weekly Lane to the 18 acres to the back of the clerk's office property, Smyrna location, or expanding it and entertain discussion with the town of Smyrna concerning laydown lot and the disposal/sale of the property at the current convenience center location. This motion passed unanimously with a roll call vote. So that being said, just want you to know that property management has already had this discussion and with unanimous vote sent their recommendation on to us that they're behind it.
Mr. Chairman, and I did not make that motion to approve the transaction. I made the motion to bring it up here for discussion. So I mean, we want to make sure that the 18 acres, that the cost of moving a convenience center is worth the investment, and those kind of items. So I think it makes sense, but I'm not declaring, and nor was property management suggesting that we know the numbers.
Yeah.
We don't know any of that. But I guess if it comes out of this committee, then we can ascertain the numbers. Jay can do maybe just a quick down and dirty estimate for building a new convenience center, and then we can come up with the ultimate conclusion. But on the surface, it looks very positive.
That's what we're looking for tonight. Yes, sir.
So the motion or the action from here would be to pursue real numbers, come back to the appropriate committee for final solution.
Correct.
Okay. I didn't make the motion, but that's what we're looking for tonight is a motion.
Yeah.
And Chairman Cush, if I may, just to reemphasize what the mayor said earlier, this is the current FEMA flood map. In the blue area is current floodplain. The orange is just 500 year, and then the hatched pattern is floodway. And that area is being drastically reduced. FEMA is in the process of restudying, or has studied that area. And I'll turn on another layer where most of that area is being removed from the FEMA flood zone. So that'll make this property even more valuable. This blue area is being removed from the flood plain, and this gray area will stay flood plain. So this is being, most of this property is being taken out of the flood plain. That's another consideration.
Mr. Chairman, we've had several conversations over the months about the safety aspect of our other convenience centers with vehicles lining up down the road and blocking traffic. This is a perfect example of that issue, not only blocking traffic, both ends of Weekly, but also backing up to the main thoroughfare through the town of Smyrna, Sam Ridley, and the Nissan corridor. And through busy times, a number of times the law enforcement communities had to come and break that gridlock up because it had lined up all the way back into the Sam Ridley and Nissan turning lanes as well. So unless there's further discussion, the clarification that Commissioner Dodd made, I would move that we proceed and get those numbers with a motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? Rachel? Yeah, for the safety reason alone, would be a high reason to support this.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Piercy?
Yes.
Mr. P?
Yes.
Mr. Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Chairman.
one thing I would suggest, if we're going to have our engineer look at designing a new convenience center for us there, I'd like for them to take into account building ramps like we've seen at some of the other adjacent counties. The mayor mentioned them in a meeting a time or two ago, but if they're not looking at that, I'd like to see a concept that shows that kind of activity on those sites.
Our engineer, Chairman P, is shaking his head yes, so it's already in the works.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
That'll give us a lot more room, and the donation trailer, room for the donation trailer we talked about earlier too. So.
All right,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mayor wanted me to give a report a little bit on the, I guess it's Landfill Road and that convenience center over there a little bit.
Can I finish this?
Oh, yes, sir.
No. Forgive me, I wanted to, so I just want to clarify for the minutes or for the mayor, for perhaps for Steve, that so the cost of building a new convenience center would be a topic. The potential income on the 2-acre industrial, the potential income on the 2-acre to Smyrna, which may be discounted as collaborative with another municipality, and then the cost of extending the sewer, because the cost of extending it may be worth us paying for instead of discounting the property. I'd like to understand the cost of the sewer before we assume that it's what is it as a bargaining chip. So if those 4 items could be part of the response, please.
Yeah, not a problem. I can do that.
Basically, where we're at is Jay Bradley, his company that he works for, had revised the plans that came from Mike Hughes, sent those to our Highway Road Superintendent, Greg Brooks. Greg is on go as soon as he gets the word to go, I guess, so to speak. But we have to get approval through Republic, since it's Republic's
property,
convenience center property, or property that our convenience center is on. And then that is also being sent to the state for a thumbs up, basically. And Mike, you can attest to how difficult that is, or not difficult. But Greg actually told me today, because I hadn't talked to him in a few days, and he said that it looks like it's going to be about mid-March, according to today, being Groundhog's Day. It's going to be 6 more weeks of bad weather. So in a fictitious part, but then again, the folks did say at the where he gets a lot of his pavement and stuff that they were opening up about mid-March. So should be opening up about mid-March. But he can do some grade work and stuff out there prior to that, but he needs the approvals from the state, and also if we're on the land of Republic, we got to get their approval, and then he's ready to start that.
Chairman.
Thank you, Steve.
On Walter Hill, we have a lease with Republic. Do you know how long that lease is?
Okay. So we're out of lease. Okay. We had talked about that to a degree, about trying to find another location or somewhere else, or coming back off a landfill road, going, doing a convenience center on county property, and we haven't gotten anywhere on that. But whether we want to do it or not, or right now it's working with the existing Republic and their piece of property there on the corner.
I would say if we would want to renew, now would be the time to do that. I think.
Or look for other property.
Yeah. I think it's, as far as having any leverage in discussion, that ball is more favorably in our court at this point in time. So it's just a thought.
Well, locations everywhere. Mr. Chairman, we were just talking when we were talking about this on Weekly. Why couldn't this been out there somewhere that we could have done something like this and just moved it and rebuilt it, and it'd been all taken care of? So we looked at the new property that we just purchased, through the county, as far as this new school. That's not going to work because there's no property there. Walter Hill School, that we thought was going to be a piece of property right there at the edge of it that might be working, but that's not going to work. So we've kind of out of ideas, unless the commissioner out there has an idea or somewhere to try to shake some bushes and get us another location or an existing piece of county property is what we was trying to do.
It doesn't sound like there's any existing county property left if you've already checked and that's all you can find, right? So are we willing to purchase property to put it on?
My idea was to go back off Landfill Road and put our convenience center on our property, on our landfill.
But to find a alternate location other than that spot, are we willing to buy the property to put it on?
That's up to the commission and you.
We can start looking, but I promise you we won't pay $45,000 an acre like we did for that school. You know of anything?
Do we not have room in our landfill? I mean, can we not put a convenience center out at our county landfill?
Well, this is the only road to get there.
Right.
Yeah. So
we own that, right?
Right.
It is a county road, but it is not in dedicated right-of-way. So technically, it's on Republic's property, but we maintain it.
So the hurdle, there's, am I seeing two hurdles? One is just we need some TDOT approval to get off of Jefferson Pike, right? Mm-hmm. And the second one is, okay, we're encroaching on some Republic land. We need to sit down with the Republic and negotiate a deal, right? That's the two things. Other than that, this is an okay piece of property to expand on. I'm asking the question. I don't.
Are you looking from an answer?
Well, I'm looking. I'm looking. I mean,
it's a tight site, Chairman. Matt can tell you it probably has its challenges, but it is a tight piece of property that we're doing everything we can to squeeze as much life and use out of it.
Is it? So are you saying it's maxed out like it is, and the more population growth we have over there, this is going to be, we're already at the limit?
Yes, sir.
So the question is, do we invest money here or do we look somewhere else? Is that the real question?
Yes, sir. This site, you could not, most likely could not do the ramps. If you could squeeze maybe one ramp in there and have a trailer on, an open top on either side. But that would, it would be a challenge to squeeze it in here and make room for the trucks to get these other open tops when they're full. So Mac has moved the gate down here to this southern end, and Jay's plan is to add some queue lanes along Landfill on the side of Landfill Road to allow traffic to queue up on Landfill instead of East Jefferson Pike like it does on a constant basis. So, but this is a tight site right here. So you've got your compactors up here and the open tops down here. So we're kind of hemmed in, and this is the fire hall next door.
Okay, just dumb question. What if we went to Republic and asked to purchase a couple acres in what looks like that wooded area?
That's an excellent idea, and that was considered, but that would have to be approved and through Republic to maybe move Landfill Road over here to this side to bring traffic off and allow the convenience center to open up and widen in this area. One of the problems we're dealing with, there's the view of the front gate on Jefferson Pike. I'm standing on Jefferson Pike, but this monster right here is what we're having a lot of issues with. That monster power pole. It's kind of like a forked road with one way in, one way out on this side, and one way in, one way out on that side. So it's a lot of confusion at that intersection, and that's what our plan is, to try to rectify, to clarify where traffic should go and restripe that area.
Okay.
But if we can move it to this wooded area, that would be even better.
All right. I'm just a country boy from Oklahoma, man. So I'm asking two simple questions. It sounds like we need to sit down with Republic and ask two questions. Can we lease, encroach, buy some of your landfill road property? And hey, by the way, would you be interested in selling us a couple acres on the corner there so we can expand? And can we not have that conversation at the same time while we're still looking for perhaps a potential site somewhere else? And if that's the case, how many acres do we need? What's a perfect, Jay, do you know? Mac, do you know? Mike, do you know? What would we need? 4 acres? What's the size of a convenience center need to be?
I would guess it would 5 acres and above to give enough room for ramps and the open tops and movement of the trucks to empty everything. I would say we're in that kind of neighborhood.
Okay. Is that something property management can also help look for, or is county land?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we could even dissect we've just put together an Excel on all of our vacant property. I think with that thought in mind, we might ought to go back and relook at all that. But
okay.
But I beg your patience. I need to backtrack just a sec. We had safety issues here, traffic stacking up. Steve and Mac and Public Works, I think, gave Steve some budget to just take the existing hard surface. We're going to have to add a little binder to the left and the right, restripe it, and just open a back gate. So this is a temporary fix. This is a Band-Aid on a big problem. We're not going to take more land or reconfigure the existing convenience center, with the exception of moving some boxes to come in the back gate. So unless I'm wrong, we may be muddying up a goal to get people off the highway, get some more people off the highway. It won't completely solve the problem. Did we have a budget of 20,000 or something like that, Mayor?
Something like that, yeah.
And they've done internal work, spent 3 so far. If we work within the 20 to put some binder on gravel, add some temporary striping, open a back gate, we're just simply resolving a safety issue or minimizing, decreasing a safety issue. We don't need to get into removing this or replacing it if we still agree to spend the $20,000. And I'd like to postpone moving the convenience center, buying more property, remove it from this conversation.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Steve?
It does make sense. I think we're trying to make it a whole lot harder than we really need to just help the safety issue. we're trying to get the cars out of the road. You know, it may have to be done that way. I don't understand a lot of construction, architecture and whatnot. I do understand we have to get state approval to do anything on their part of the right-of-way as far as the striping, because myself and Mr. Nolan met with one of the state guys before we ever started this, and he said he would have to sign off on whatever we done out on their part of the road. The land that lies behind the compactor site right there is very wet land, very marshy land. Don't really think we could do a whole lot with any of that. The land across the road, across the landfill road right there, it's bluffy. And part of it's marshland too. There's nothing else out there to really buy to improve that site. You know, we can go ahead and try to do what we're doing. You know, we didn't intend to pave the whole road or pave the inside or concrete the inside of the convenience center. We were trying to do it the cheapest way possible and get people off the street. If we could get, like Mr. Dodd here said, if we could get a little binder down on the side next to the convenience center, just some simple stripes in there to keep people directed in the right direction till we can get them on the convenience center and work with that. And maybe in the future, you know, come back and look for another site. Nobody wants a convenience center, you know. Nobody out there is going to run up on my door in the morning knocking, hey, I got some land, what y'all give? They're not coming. They're not coming. They don't want it, especially out there. You know, I think we need to just back up and do the simple fix we can, whatever we can get the state to approve us and sign off on, and let's try to get some of these cars off the road. If it don't work, we'll shut the gate, put them back in the road. That's all I know to do.
All right. I agree. So is this document, this rendering, Jay, ready, good enough to go to TDOT? Okay. Are you? Do you have a schedule? You have a meeting set with them, Mike or Jay?
Typically what happens is the local government, me, would stamp it, say, yeah, it looks good, write a letter, and send it on to our contacts at TDOT. So we can touch base with them and have some preliminary calls and go ahead and get this moving. Yes, sir. All
right. And so we can't do, Greg Brooks can't do anything as far as binder and asphalt until we hear from TDOT, or can we go ahead and make improvements on our side?
Yes, sir. We can do improvements on our side.
Okay,
yes, sir.
So tell me again, because it's been 30 minutes since you probably told me. Tell me again why we can't go ahead and move forward with the binder and the asphalt.
Because the asphalt plants are closed right now, but they can start some preliminary work. They'll have to do some grade work, like Commissioner Piercy said. Where we're widening a little area, we'll have to do some fill in that swampy area. We'll have to get Republic's permission first.
Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness. But so,
yes, sir.
So that money's coming out of the $20,000 budget, right? And okay, so Greg just needs us to say, Greg, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's make a motion for Greg to go ahead. We got the money, right? Set aside.
Well, we hope we do. We don't know what it's going to cost.
Well, we got up to.
Did Greg ever?
We got up to $17,000. It sounds like right now.
Very possible.
Yeah, I'm sure Jay's fees coming out of that, right?
No, I think Jay's fees are coming out of the mayor's budget.
Craig, straighten me out.
I need some help.
Yeah.
Okay. We have RFPs coming out in February.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen.
Right. 15 days.
We have a convenience center that we do not own, and the lease is up. So I'm concerned that if these RFPs don't go Republic's way, what are we going to do? I mean, we're in a situation where we don't own the land, so we would have to find another place to put a convenience center. So I understand where everybody's going, but what I think to be smart, and we need to look for property just in case. I mean, we really do, just in case, because I'm telling you, we don't own it and we don't have a lease on it. So they pretty much can dictate what happens right there. So either we negotiate with them, or we at least need to protect ourselves and have another location to at least be looking for that. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but from what I'm seeing, I was okay, but when it says no lease, that's a little bit of concern to me.
Duly noted. So we're stymied. What's the right way out of this right now?
We can't do both.
I think we can.
No, you can't.
I think we should.
You cannot spend the money, and you cannot spend the money.
In Craig's, I agree with what Craig said, but I also think by the time that situation rears its ugly head, it could be 12 months down the road, could be 18 months down the road. You could save somebody's life from
Correct.
the issues on Jefferson Pike. So I would rather put the patch on the tube and limp along for as long as we can until the cards unfold in front of us over the next several months.
I'll make a motion that we go forward with the Jefferson Pike, and then I'll make another motion to allow the mayor to start looking at property. So my first motion is that we go forward with Jefferson Pike project and go forward.
With the full project, or just to get it open?
To get it open.
To get the traffic off of Jefferson.
Second.
Okay.
Discussion question? Would it be prudent to pursue Republic anyway? What did we spend on the lease prior to expiring?
$1?
I mean, is there a chance that we could get a lease right now before all this other occurs?
That's what I'm saying. I think the negotiation power right now, today, the next 30 days, I think the power is with us. So I would negotiate anything I could right now in the next 30 days.
You could try, but I'd say most any negotiation with Republic will have strings tied to it.
Didn't hurt to ask.
Mr. Blair, let me reiterate what I'm saying. I'm not anti-Republic. I'm just simply saying, why not be prepared? That's all I'm saying. So my motion is to go forward with the project for the safety of the county. I make that motion. And then I'm going to make another motion to allow the mayor to look for additional property.
Yeah. You guys help me out during this discussion phase. Are we opposed to ask Republic, say, hey, man, you know, I see your lease is expired. I mean, I don't know if we're still sending $1 over there or not, but I mean, I can
Mr.
walk
Chairman,
walk over there with cash.
I've been in sales all my life, and if you don't ask,
right?
I mean, you know what the answer is. So I would ask.
If they say no, we're still going to do what we're going to do with Greg's group, right?
Yes. And Chairman Harris, would you allow an amendment to either one of these, either one of your motions to pursue Republic?
Absolutely. I'm not saying we don't do that. I agree with you, Chairman Cush. Could be 12 to 18 months. Yeah. I mean, realistically. So we're going to be making these improvements, but I'm for the improvements because of safety. Yeah. Get them off Jefferson Pike. That's what I am.
That's what
I'm just simply saying, as a precaution, to allow the mayor to just look at property. I'm not saying doing anything. I'm just simply saying allow his office to look for property, just in case. That's all I'm saying.
So let's stick with your original first motion. Then we'll amend your second. Mac, do you have a comment?
It was still under Mayor Burgess, and Mayor Burgess and Republic was talking about the lease. And as far as I know, it's never been signed. I've never seen anything from it. So that's the reason I say it's potentially expired. But as far as them being a hard one to deal with, I don't see that happening at this point. Now, it could happen later. But if the mayor's office may have a signed contract, but if they do, I've never seen one.
Okay. I got $1.
Yeah. Well, you know, possession's 9/10 of the law. So, all right. Let's go with your original motion, number 1. And we had a motion and a second. So, Rachel, are you confident you know what that one was?
Move forward with the renovations at Jefferson Pike.
Greg? Bingo. Roll call.
Chairman Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair? Commissioner
Yes.
Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. All right. On your motion B, would you consider rewording such that as we are looking, and I don't know if we ask the mayor or public building authority to look at additional properties for potential sites, that you also include a discussion with Republic regarding a discussion of contract on that road, whatever we call that.
Yes, that'll be fine.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Landfill Road, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. Is that Brick Murphy in the background? Yes. Okay, Brick. You've heard our conversation. We're curious about what the status is of that potential lease on Landfill Road. If it's live, dead, what the status is. I knew you would. Thanks, brother.
Got $1.
All right. Yeah, and between the mayor and I, we have $1 cash. We'll be glad to update that lease. All right, Michael, is that it for the convenience centers? So, last but not least, Rebecca Caldwell, RFP.
How are you all? It's been a while since I've seen you.
Yes, it has.
So I guess I should say Happy New Year. I really just wanted to come before you tonight because we're talking about opening the RFPs. That will be on February 17th at noon. I asked Rachel to share the evaluation criteria with you. Instead of going back over the things we've talked about or the history of all the things we've touched on and considered, I wanted to just take a peek at the evaluation criteria and just quickly glance at those, wrap your head around what those are, what those look like, what your thoughts are. Each of these we actually gave an equal weight to. So I would encourage you all just to look at what's most important to you. So understanding you don't know what you're going to look at specifically from what company or which service, which function, but if you look at, say the first one, qualifications and experience, how important are those things to you, and consider on a scale from 0 to 10 what a response would look like, what 0 to 10 would mean to you as far as what you think is important, what we've talked about over time as far as the services needed, what the timing would be, what the technology is, and that type thing. And some of those other things are listed further in the list of criteria. The project plan would be part of the timeline of those are things we've talked about. How long will it take? When can we expect this to happen? The actual proposed facilities or the type of facilities, and then the public education and community relations. That's actually a separate piece of the RFP, but we also do expect anyone else that's putting in a proposal to share that they would potentially work with the public information officer for sure, regardless. The customer service, who's going to provide the customer service if there's a call from the public. The expectation of county resources, if they need county resources, if they're asking for certain, will the county lease land or sell land or give land or whatever. I don't know what that looks like, but how important is it to you? Do you rank one higher than another based on if they do or don't need the county to give resources? contingency plan, what's their backup plan? Do they have a backup plan? The cost, of course, will be one, and then the performance measures. You know, are you going to look at it like how many complaints are received, or how much of the recyclables are clean enough to be sold at market, or, you know, permitted, state permit regulations and that type thing. This was just to kind of bring you back to where we were a couple of months ago, pre-holiday season, and ask you if you have questions, thoughts. Of course, I'm available to you if you have questions after the meeting tonight, just in anticipation of opening the RFPs on Wednesday, February 17th.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. You're recognized.
So we open them the 17th, and then we start our evaluations. Are we going to set, we don't know how many we got right now, do we?
We won't know until noon on,
Oh, it could
some
be a
people will
lot.
handle it. Mhm.
So are we going to meet continuously, or are we going to meet once a week to do this? Because it's not something we're going to do in one day.
No.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think, I don't know how long it will take Becky to do a spreadsheet and to go into each one of the RFPs. It might take 30, 60, I don't know how many days to compilate all that information. And you know, I don't know how she's going to set up the matrix to show to us. And then at that point in time, you know, we're looking somewhere in May, right in the thick of budget, going through this process. But it may, there's no sense getting any rush. Figure out, but I think we're going to have over 20, in my opinion.
We've had lots of folks reach out. So we've had lots of people that have reached out by email and called and said, hey, would you send me that? Or, hey, I heard about that. Where can I find it? And we direct them to the website. I would say to you, I'll do my best to turn those around quickly. The matrix I picture being company name in one column and then each function across in an Excel spreadsheet, just to show you which company proposed certain things for, you know, if one company proposed just composting, a processing of composting, if one company proposed everything, they would have, you know, an asterisk or an X in each column across, and then to actually offer you some specific details to the best of my ability. Obviously, I would encourage you all to look at those yourself, but sometimes these get to be 30 or 50 pages, depending on what they're proposing. Some of them you're going to want to look a little closer at, especially some that have new technologies that we may or may not know about.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Chairman P.
Just so I don't forget this, and I'm not sure it's appropriate time to stick this in, but it's part of a evaluation I would look at. You know, if we decide to bid out or whatever we decide to do with our convenience centers, so that our convenience employees, the operators, are no longer needed by the county, can we ask these companies that, or the company that may take that over, if they would be willing to hire our employees? Because I don't like the idea of our guys kind of hanging out there and not knowing what's going to happen to them in the future too.
Right. Yeah, a nice and noble thought, and certainly that needs to be part of the discussion if we get to that point in the discussion.
All right, thank you.
So Becky, on the 12th, one of us, myself, maybe the vice chair, or one of us needs to be there basically to take these bids under advisement. And then you will package all these, take these to your office, and begin to disseminate, like you said, categorize individuals per their expertise on a spreadsheet. Do you anticipate that being something you are able to do yourself? Do you need us or a group of us to assist in that? When do you see us stepping back in terms of beginning the evaluation of the actual RFPs?
We've asked for enough copies for everyone on the committee to have a copy, so I would encourage you to look at them from the beginning.
Okay.
I'll just give you the starting point and then, details that stand out that we've talked about over the past year and a half or so, specifics from my notes that we've taken, and certainly just the things that stand out, again, that as far as services and things that we've considered. And you're welcome to be part of that process at any point. If you want me to, if you want to meet here and have those conversations through each proposal, or if you want me to bring, you tell me. I'm good to bring you what you need to help make the best decisions.
All right. Just trying to think ahead, assuming that there are, 20-some applicants and the reading material stacks, a foot and a half high, do we need to all kind of do this in a logical sequence as far as reading material? So if you have your spreadsheet and the first column is composting, the second one is recycling, that under composting, and we have these 3 vendors, that in a logical order, we all read the 3 composting vendor packets, and then we digest that, we move on to column 2, happen to be recycling, and there's 7 people there. We read all 7 packets of the recycle. I mean, I'm trying to chop through it.
And we've talked about each function and how each function is separate, even though they all work together integrated. So I think that's a really good approach to it. I think if you start to see a stack of the mayor mentioned the number 20. So if you see a stack of 20 and some are 2 or 3 functions, one company is one function and such, I think it gets confusing, and there gets to be a whole lot of overwhelm to that.
I'm trying to figure out how to eat the elephant.
Yeah. And
okay.
I think the function by company as a small group, and then look at the ones that have offered, whether it's all of the services or all the functions mentioned, or if it's, one company offered 2 or 3 here and there, one company plans to work with a different company and that type of thing. I think you'll get a good picture from that.
Questions for, bless you.
Bless you.
Questions for Becky?
And I'm available if you all have questions between now and then.
Ball's in her court, yeah, or about to be anyway. All right. Becky, thank you. Other business, we have at least one more item to discuss, and it's not a new item, but we're going to bring it up and hopefully get some a motion made. Mayor, I'm going to turn it over to you in regards to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, we've talked about this before. I brought you, if you look on your SharePoint, it's the last item, talking about the Tennessee criminal littering law. We've talked about it for months. And it continues to get worse with our growth. And talking with our superintendent at our Correctional Work Center, Mr. Bill Cope, talking to Commissioner Gammon, who actually runs one of the crews. It's just getting worse and worse. And until we start putting some teeth in it, I've asked you to consider the law that's in front of you, as Tennessee state law says that we can't go any lower than what thresholds that they have established, but we can go higher. I think I'm requesting that we increase our littering law in Rutherford County, put some teeth into it. And I know you're going to say, well, we don't have anybody to enforce it. We do have an environmental court. Of course, they're not meeting right now. I'm suggesting to Superintendent Cope at the Correctional Work Center about, until we can get into the next budget and talk about hiring someone like the old Bart Smith used to do, go around and get people for not having their tags renewed. And also he was kind of the trash cop around the county, and would actually get out and go through trash dumping in rural areas. But we can talk about that as we get into the budget. But I was talking to Superintendent Cope about the possibility of taking some additional money that's already in his budget and paying these guys that are out on the work crew, and if they find any cancel check or anything with somebody's name on it, and paying them $4 or $5, they could go into their canteen account where they're able to buy some things inside the Correctional Work Center. Kind of incentivize them to pick up a little bit more trash and get a Snickers bar, until we can properly address it. But I think the main thing is sending the signal through our PIO, get news releases that we're getting serious about people dumping in this county. We're tired of it. We're tired of people. My office gets bombarded with phone calls about how nasty it is on I-24 and 840. And you go out in the rural areas, Commissioner Piercy, I don't know if you pass by any dumps on your bus routes, but I know out in Rockvale, we were out there just a week or so ago, and they're finding these places, and then one person sees it dumped, and then somebody else comes along, and I was told that there was a refrigerator just sitting in the middle of the road, not on the side of the road, but sitting in the middle of the road. I don't know if it fell off the back, but somebody was doing it on purpose, which is dangerous. We can possibly get some trail cams from TDOT, or we can purchase some of our own, but I'm just asking that we get serious about it. You see in front of you right now, first offense is $50. I think that needs to be increased to a minimum $250 and then $500 on the second offense. I'd like to hear a discussion or a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I can tell you that without a little teeth, it's not going to be, it's not going to get anybody's attention. And I know when I drive down 75 through Georgia and I see that $1,000.
$1,000, man. It scares me.
That gets my attention. I'm not going to be a litterer, but if I happen to be one, that would get my attention. Down, right? So I think this is a great idea, Mayor. And I told you when we talked about this months ago that I was very supportive. And after some discussion, I'm happy to make a motion to approve this. What the mayor has.
250 first, 500 second.
Why not do the max all the way through?
That's up to the committee.
I'd do the max. The $500 on the sign would be more impressive than the $250.
I'm open for anything. Matter of fact, I like it even more.
I'm okay, and I'll make that motion to do 500.
So
second.
So 500 first. Does it go up after that? Or is it 500 each time?
Can we go up?
Can we go 1,000?
Yes, sir, you can. You can do anything
500
higher than what's in the code.
Going once?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Commissioner P.
I'm in favor of us doing this too, but I want to point out something. Maybe some of you need to get behind some of these trucks that are driving our streets and follow them a little bit. You don't have to follow them very far. Matter of fact, I wouldn't get real close to some of them because a lot of times they'll have stuff fall off there you might hit. But I've never been behind a truck on Jefferson Pike that's hauling trash that a piece of paper did not fly out of it, even with a covered tarp. Okay? Now, the reason I'm saying this is if I put a letter in the trash and it's picked up from our convenience center and it's trucked over and put in the landfill, and somewhere along the line it blows out from under that tarp, am I going to end up paying your $500 or $1,000?
I have a comment on that, but does anybody else want to?
I think that would be determined by the environmental court.
Yeah, I think, Robert, I think the proximity of your physical address and the location where that letter is found, particularly if it's in line on the way to the landfill or convenience center, certainly comes into play. But again, I think the target here is illegal dumping, not just litter.
One piece of trash.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like we're going to be okay with people, dropping cigarette butts in a McDonald's cup out. That's not cool either. But what we're targeting is the illegal dumping at this point in time.
You know, and I agree with you. And the mayor was talking about Eagleville. You know, I've drove by 2 televisions on the side of the road in my district, about 8 or 10 tires just in the last 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, it's happening all over the county, not just on 840 or 24 or wherever. But, you know, I just want to caution us, yes, we do want to take care of these nuisance litterers, but I also want to take care of our citizens that, through no fault of their own, a piece of paper might be on the highway somewhere. I had a constituent that actually paid a person to tear down a building for them. And that person took their money, had the contract, and took that building that they tore down and dumped it illegally on somebody else's property after having taken her money. Well, Bart found a letter in that heap of trash that was dumped on somebody else's property. And, you know, of course, she called me and I called codes, and we were able to straighten it out because we knew who tore down the building. You know, it's the people like that are dumping intentionally that we want to go after. But I just want to make sure there's safeguards in place for our citizens don't get caught up in something like this that they didn't do. You know, first time offense of 1 letter. If I've got 1 letter that's sitting on a Jefferson Pike with my name on it, and I'm going to get a $500 fine for it, I got a problem with that.
Yeah, no, that's not the intention, and common sense will hopefully prevail.
And I think, Mr. Chairman, that the environmental judge would take that in consideration, even if it's a workhouse inmate that picks up a piece of paper and it's got somebody's name on it and it's going, oh, I found one, we're going to bust somebody for $500. The judge would make that determination. But if you find a pile of stuff and they rumble through it that's out on Rocky Fork Road or out in Rockvale, and you find several pieces of paper, mail, trash mail, and everything else, then I think the judge would make that determination. This is...
Mr. Chairman, do I need to restate this motion?
Why don't you repeat your motion, Commissioner Blair?
We would take the mayor's recommendation, but increase the fine from $250 to $500 for the first offense, and then from $500 to $1,000 for the second offense. And I also appreciate the court is going to do its due diligence.
Whoever seconded that, are they willing to second that amendment? Okay. Any more discussion? Rachel.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Blair?
Yes.
Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
No.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Chairman Cush?
Yes. All right. Any other?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, I want to discuss, I think we need to discuss what we just dealt with. We have been talking about a litter officer. We've been talking about trail cams. You know, we got budget coming up. So who is going to deal with this? Who is going to make a proposal? Who is going to tell us how much it costs?
I can get you those numbers. I believe when Mr. Mankin hired Bart Smith, he found a used Crown Vic, and he eventually was able to trade up, and his Crown Vic was fancier than, had more blue lights on it than the sheriff's department. But I think that person came under the mayor's budget at that time. Am I correct, Pettis? Okay, so that I can bring that proposal if it's the will of this committee.
Yes, sir.
Mac, did you not say that there was a grant for us to have trail cams?
We can get a litter grant, which is a pretty large amount of money. We spend all of it on product. So we could actually buy a litter grant and get a camera and get reimbursed for it. You know, we can do it that way. We're going to spend the money anyway. We don't have to have grant.
I mean, that's a Ford. That's what I'm trying to say. I want us to go forward. I mean, we talk about it, and we've been talking about it for 6 months, and we keep, you know, Commissioner P's talking about TVs, you're talking about stuff. So I want to get it going because I know budget's coming up. So can you get those numbers?
Yeah, we can.
And have Matt get us the trail cams?
Well, as we start the budget process, at the request of this committee, I'll put it in as my budget starts moving forward, bring it to this committee, if that's the will of the committee, and make that proposal.
All right. Anything else? Meeting adjourned.